I'm James Kirk.
I'm Michi Hoyer.
And you're watching simnews.tv.
Pass them both on the wet part of the racetrack. Oh, he swings left and right there. Trying to put Morris up. Morris. Oh! That was so close.
Hello and welcome to round 11 of the 2019 GPVWC Formula Challenge, coming to you from Spa in Belgium, a circuit that will really need no introduction for the majority of you. Certainly a lot of drivers' favourites as we're coming towards the end of the free practice session, and qualifying we can to you in about 3 minutes time. Let's see if we can jump on board with anybody. If we can get on board with Martin Hemmingson, we might actually be able to get an onboard lap in, or at least most of one, as he comes up to the top of Radion and down the Camel Straight. Oh, as we're hearing, we're not actually on board with Hemmingson, though. Instead, we'll wait until the qualifying to jump on board with someone, and we'll maybe go over a bit of the comings and goings from the last round at Hockenheim, which, if any of you tuned in, you would have seen race 2 and that got a little bit hairy. So a few time penalties and a few things coming out of that, but it hasn't really affected the championship standings, as we still have Jonathan Holmes for AB Racing leading the pack. And if it would load, I believe it's Sandeep Singh in second, but a little bit behind. We could see that gap close today, as Holmes does have a 10-place grid penalty owing to a track limits violation in the qualifying at Hockenheim Ring last time. But in the Teams Championship, it's still AB Racing leading, although presently down to just the one car tonight, with Jonathan Holmes being here. No Menno Klont and no sign of their reserve driver, Larry Alpius, either, so potentially a good chance for Mouse 1 and TSA and KC and the like to mount a bit of a comeback. But currently, KC Racing actually having 2 cars in the top 3 in official free practice, with Sandeep Singh in third, and the fastest driver by just about a tenth of a second, the only man in the 156s in free practice, Miguel de los Rios. So it's good to see him being back up towards the sharp end of the standings. Usually you see Sandeep Singh up there, but de los Rios has been struggling throughout a few of the opening rounds, or of the opening half of the season. Good to see him back. Also back at the forefront, we have Guglielmo Matti. He was strong back in Turkey, so it's good. Hopefully we will see him up there. And a few new names to consider just outside of the top 10. Herman Stocci is currently in 11th at the end of free practice. We've also got the man who won the Academy Series last night. We have Tom Voss. If we do have to give him his due for winning that. Very well played. Very close between himself and David Yunt throughout a lot of that race. Tom Voss currently sitting 14th in free practice, and the man he beat, David Yunt, down in 23rd. So Tom Voss looking handy in the slightly wet conditions at Spa. as we're getting the notification through from the race director that we are going to be moving to qualifying in just a second. As hooray, the standings have loaded. Still Jonathan Holmes leading from Sandeep Singh and Martin Hemmingson. It's really starting to come down to those three, with Hemmingson being the outside shot at the championship. And in the teams, similarly, AB Racing now with a 63-point lead over Mouse 1, which will almost certainly be coming down if AB only have the one car like they seem to be today. Oh, as we do have another AB driver, we have Alfie Lawrenson just jumping in that second car, so we'll have to see what he can do in the qualifying, as we're just waiting for the final few cars to finish their last lap. I believe it's Tom Voss and Sandeep Singh are the only two out on track at the present. And when they come back to the garage, it will be green light on at the end of the pit lane and ready for qualification. Yes, here we go, session advancing. Always important in qualifying to find some space, and with Spa being a very long track, you're going to have less laps than usual, so you're going to need to make them count. As the first couple of drivers are going to be getting to the end of the pit lane now. Who's going to get there first and get the all-important track position? It's one of the calamities. It's David Yunt, who's left the pits on intermediate tires, but behind him there's one of the PLS cars. That is... who is that in the PLS? It's Andrzejewski. He's on the slick compound tires, so we'll have to see which tire is the right choice, whether it dries up anymore or whether it continues to rain. But either way, let's see if we can jump on board with David Yunt, as he's the first one out of the pits. Can we do that, Alex? He's going to come down through the Kemmel Straight on the run down to Lacombe. Big approach speed here, really good overtaking opportunity. Onto the brakes, through the right, through the left, and through the right of Malmedy. And then down the hill towards Brussels. Just a dropping off downhill 180 degree switch around, and then on towards the corner with no name, that's got a nasty wall on the exit, so if anyone's not paying so much attention, they're going to find their race over in a heartbeat. Down into Pouon, through the first apex, through the second apex. Surprisingly fast in these cars, they stick very well to the road. And then into the Fagnes chicane, through the right, through the left, very long corners these. And then down to the right-hander of Campus. We have a small freeze as someone gets back into the game. Through Stavelot, and then on the long run down to Blanchimont, which is probably going to be where a lot of slipstreaming battles are going to happen. And if you can catch a slipstream all the way down here in qualifying, it's going to be worth to you a good 3 or 4 tenths. So if someone can time it right, catch a slower car, and then just breeze on by on the way down towards the final chicane, as they jump on the brakes, through the right, through the left, and then get the power down. The rain is intensifying, so the intermediates could be the way to go as Yunt comes across the line to start his lap. Unknown braking into La Source, because obviously, you know, it's wetter than it has been. And then down the hill, down the big hill towards what most people think of when you hear the word Spa-Francorchamps, down towards Eau Rouge, and up, and then up the other side, up Radion, and then back onto the Kemmel Straight is one full lap on board with David Yunt. And we'll have to see, just going to jump to Andrzejewski just to see how he's going on those slick tyres. Seems to be about even with Yunt at this point, is Andrzejewski. As we're going to be seeing their times for the first sector come in momentarily. Yunt 2 tenths quicker than Andrzejewski, and Sandeep Singh just in there as well, less than half a tenth behind Yunt. So at this stage, seems even between slicks and inters, as Andrzejewski's got that with Krupa on an outlap getting out of his way. Track wetness is still just about where you'd expect slicks to be quicker, but offline is already up to 31% saturated, which means that if a slick shod car wanders off the line even a fraction, they're going to have a hard time even keeping it in a straight line, let alone keeping the lap time up. As we have a good few drivers out on intermediates actually. In addition to David Yunt, we've got Joseph Fagg, Renk Hoekstra, Tom Voss, Frank Hamming and Jonathan Holmes, and with those latter two especially as pole position contenders, choosing to go for intermediates, it's a big gamble. Because even if the slick guys get one lap in before the rain properly comes down, that could be unbeatable when it comes to the end of the session. There's a yellow flag out towards the end of the lap. Not sure who that is, but David Yunt coming up towards the final chicane. Through the right, through the left, and then on the sprint to the line, it's David Yunt going to set the first lap time and the provisional pole of a 2 minutes 2.032. So of course that lap a lot slower than laps in free practice, but that's because the track is wet and getting wetter. So Yunt manages to pip Andrzejewski by 2.5 seconds, so clearly the intermediate tyres on Yunt might have been a stroke of genius, as Herlock's in behind him as well, as is Delos Rios. Martin Hemmingson up to third, Stocci up to second for drive game seat, so that's a good lap for those guys. But David Yunt potentially has pulled a masterstroke here, because obviously as the track gets wetter it gets slower for all compounds, and the first man on track on intermediates, David Yunt, he's already up on himself again through the first sector. The rain not getting too much heavier. Track's still around 6 to 8% online. As Adrian Faber now jumps up into second for PZZW. So this could be a very jumbled grid, as we can see drivers such as Jonathan Holmes and Sandeep Singh have yet to set a lap time. And in fact, Holmes is going up to Lacombe right now, so he's a long way away from setting a lap time. And Sandeep Singh is even behind him on the track, so when the time they get into the final chicane, it's going to be completely flooded. Wetness up already offline to 33%. Well, I don't actually see things getting that much quicker unless the session starts to dry up again. You got guys like Stefan Zanrosso heading back into the pit lane. How are some of the other drivers out there doing? Frank Hamming has completed a lap on intermediates, but it's only good enough for 13th place on a 2 minutes 10.1. You've got to assume there's a mistake in that somewhere, because Hamming, not a driver you'd expect at this point in the season to be 8 seconds off the pace. As we've got a purple sector coming in, Joseph Fagg, purple in sector 1, all the way down in 24th, is one of the drivers in the academy car for this round. And Jonathan Holmes answers with a purple sector 2, but Holmes half a second off of Fagg's P1. So if Holmes sets this lap, it could be quite easily beaten. As he's coming down towards the final chicane, there's a mouse one off on the right, still committed to the slick tyres. And through the chicane goes Jonathan Holmes. Where is this going to put him? As he goes up to the line. And it is provisional pole on a 201.357, 6/10 clear of David Yunt. Now if we switch back to Fagg as he's coming out of the end of sector 2, we're going to be seeing a sector 2 time for him momentarily as he comes out on the run towards Banchemont. And it's green on himself, but he's lost a lot of time to Jonathan Holmes. So potentially this might not be going quite as high up on the leaderboard, but still could be very good for maybe 3rd place or so if he can nail the 3rd sector. Coming down towards the final chicane, super tight, get big heavy on the brakes. And now heavy on the throttle, but obviously in the wet, could still be an issue. And across the line, Joseph Fagg goes 4th. Also up into the top 4, Frank Hamming going 2nd. But that's a good lap from Joseph Fagg, and just behind him on the track, Tom Voss into 5th. You can see it's definitely getting a lot wetter now. Lots of spray coming up off of cars. Just having a quick check on the rain, it's gone up to 11%. Offline is 44% wet. So this is really going to be slowing the pace down. And we'll be lucky to see many people improving on even themselves at this point. Other than the drivers who haven't completed a lap yet, which at this present moment still includes Dawid Krupa and Sandeep Singh, who are 2 drivers who are usually ones to watch. But even drivers who have managed a full flying lap, I saw Frank Hamming off in the gravel trap, still trying to find the limits. But this isn't half going to shake up the grid. You got Hemmingson currently 8th, Holmes on pole, Singh 19th, and Krupa dead last in 27th. Who else is out there on track at the moment? Rodrigo Carvalho is setting the lap time, but it's not going to be that great because it's so heavily raining. It's a 37.1 sector 1. That's Stefan Zanrosso with no front wing. Carvalho going through the through Fagnes down towards Stavolo. And there we go, he's lost 2.1 seconds on Jonathan Holmes in that middle sector. He does have, oh, that's Gerrit de Vries in front of him. I was about to say he does have Gerrit de Vries who could give him a bit of a slipstream, but Gerrit struggling out there on slicks. Probably just trying to limp it back to the pits. There's Carvalho for Razor. Through Blanchimont. Stays on that exit curve. Down towards the final chicane. And he's going to get a good run to the line. This could be a decent time still from Carvalho, all things considered. Across the line, inside the top 10, 9th placer Rodrigo Carvalho. He's going to go straight on in turn 1. Evidently that braking zone is pretty waterlogged. Looking around, Hemmingson's on a green, Tom Voss is on a green, Mateusz Jabinski's on a green, Delos Rios on a green, but one man who's big on green, Paweł Andrzejewski, he's 7/10 up on himself going into Puchon. He's got his teammate Zabinski ahead of him, who's also on a personal improvement. So the two PLS cars both putting in a lap in the wet, and Andrzejewski is up by enough that he could maybe move up into that top 5. So it's definitely one to have a look at as he comes out now on the run down towards Blanchimont. Zabinski a little bit too far ahead in order to give a slipstream, but Zabinski also on his own flying lap. And in fact, I think Zabinski might be around about half a tenth down on Andrzejewski, so both drivers looking for that spot up in the top 5. And across the line is back comes Zabinski. Where is he going to place? He's going to move up to 5th, and Andrzejewski up into 6th. So PLS Racing Team up onto that 3rd row of the grid with 2-minute 3s. Those are some pretty solid lap times. Nearly half a second ahead of the drivers behind. Just as we say that though, Hemmingson jumps up himself into 5th place. But it seems like the intermediates are the tyres to be on right now. And the track seems to be at least quicker than it would have been on the slicks at the start of the session. Another man on a big improvement, in 11th, Adrian Faber. He's over a second up on himself, and that'll put him up onto a 2:03.2 at present, which is also in and around that top 8. As Daniel Hurlock jumps up as well for Santon. Oh, and Faber's had a good run. He's now 1.3 up on himself. So this is, yeah, he needs to find a little bit more to break back into that top 10, top 8. But certainly an improvement for the PZZW driver as he comes in heavy on the brakes. Might have benefited a little bit from a Jonathan Holmes slipstream. And now a run to the line. Adrian Faber, 2:02.2. He moves himself up into 5th place. Like a very good lap. See if we can find somebody else who's out there. Dawa Krupa still hasn't set a lap time. And he's still not even on a lap. So he's going to have one chance to make this work at the very end of the session. Same too with Alfie Lawrenson. Paul Holt as well. Although Paul Holt's had pretty good sector 1 on this lap. Coming towards the end of the 2nd sector. You can see how he's done. Only 2 1/1000ths behind Jonathan Holmes. Now 2 seconds behind after the 2nd sector. So that's going to put him deep up into the leaderboard. With Fair Racing Team, we're used to seeing them more towards the back of the field. In a slightly jumbled grid like this, they could really take advantage. As Holt comes down towards the final chicane. He's got a couple of cars in front of him, including Lawrenson. And he's going to have time for a lap or 2 more. And Paul Holt to the line. It's going to be a 2:03.7, which is going to put him 13th. Just ahead of Tom Voss and Joey Vrolyk. And Voss actually on an improvement himself. You can see Hemmingson's on an improvement, but he's right at the start of the lap. Yannis Walburn coming to the end of the lap, 2/10 up on himself, which could put him up into as high as 4th place. Oh, but he gets a big twitch in the final chicane. He's going to have lost a lot of time. He's going to pick up a new personal best, and it's going to move him up to 5th, but still 2/10 on the table easily in that final chicane from Walburn. David Yunt had a purple Sector 1, but lost all the time in Sector 2. And while we hadn't been paying attention, Herman Stocci up to 2nd and is now back out on the track on slicks, which in my opinion is quite brave. As Jonathan Holmes himself coming down to finish another lap with a purple Sector 2. Jonathan Holmes improves by just shy of 2/10 to secure his foothold on pole position just a little bit better. In fact, he's half a second ahead of Stocci at the moment, so it's going to take a big lap from anybody to be able to beat it. As we're coming right down to buzzer beater time, 40 seconds left on the clock. So some of these guys, this might be their last lap. I know for one, Frank Hamming is going to be getting another time by. I think he might be one of the last though. In fact, he might be the last driver to get across the line in time to start another lap. Go and have a look and see who's up. Hemmingson is about half a second up on himself. The other ways down on Holmes, but it's going to be an improvement from the Mouse 1 driver. Got a nice toe off of Joey Vrolyik into the final chicane. About 7/10 up is Hemmingson, and across the line he goes. Session is over. Martin Hemmingson didn't make another lap. 2:01.6 is going to have to do for him. Provisionally 2nd though. As it's Herman Stocci on the slick tyres has dropped it at Pouhon. That just shows how wet it is. Jonathan Holmes joining him off for a bit of sightseeing. David Yunt is slightly up on his time. Anybody else towards the end of a lap? As that's Capone. Lorenzo Capone backwards as he's dropped it at some point. Herlock finishes a lap. Tom Voss is on a large improvement. So too Tony Janssen. And all the way down the last couple of times at the moment, David Krupa dead last in 27th. He's going to finish a lap time. It's going to be crossing the line, and it's going to be a 2:01.9, so provisionally 6th. Although we are hearing that David Krupa had to take avoiding action, as that could potentially have made that lap invalid. So Krupa potentially might have to remove his lap and start from the back. But for now, 6th place for the Mouse 1 driver. As whoever was behind it was Alfie Lawrence, 21st for AB. Still a few drivers still coming to the end of their lap. One of which is Gerrit de Vries. He's over 2 seconds up on himself through the final chicane. There comes Gerrit to the line. Guglielmo Matti right behind him is on massive improvement too. Matti goes 14th. And Gerrit de Vries is going to go 21st provisionally. Last couple across the line are going to be whoever's in 13th. Nope, Capone into the pit lane, so it's now all down to Frank Hamming. And I think he's far enough down on his lap, he's just going to pull it into the pit. So there we go, qualification is over. And we have Jonathan Holmes taking the provisional pole position, however with a grid penalty incoming, so pole position will go in effect to Martin Hemmingson. And then we're going to have Herman Stocci, a complete unknown to the Formula Challenge, alongside him. That should be interesting. Further behind, Frank Hamming, Daniel Herlock, David Krupa, and David Yunt. All interesting drivers to watch as well. So this could be good into the first couple of corners. There's a few drivers complaining about dirty air in the chat, which you will get around here sometimes. But I think the big, or at least one of the big stories of this, Sandeep Singh all the way down 25th position. So he really had a good opportunity to gain some points on Holmes, but as something's happened to him in qualifying, where he only managed to get the one timed lap in, and even that was only a 2:10.9, so nearly 6 seconds off the next car. So he's got a lot of work to do, but we'll have to see where the grid lies after all of the grid drops are applied. But I know I believe for sure it's going to be Martin Hemmingsen and then Herman Stocci on the front row. After that, who knows? So until then, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back with you for the end of warm-up and for the first race of round 11 of the GPVWC Formula Challenge.
Kevin's gone off! Kevin's gone off! Cannonball rolling! Who's completing her? He's gonna get He's gonna pass them both on the wet part of the racetrack. Oh, he swings left and right and then trying to put Morris up. Morris! Oh! That was so close.
Hello and welcome back to round 11 of the GPVWC Formula Challenge here from Spa. We're just coming up to the end of the warm-up session, heading to race 1 in a minute, and we have been joined on the broadcast, on the comms team, by one Tyler Parker.
Yeah, you sounded so lonely, Mike. I figured I'd swing in and give you a hand here at the wonderful Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And I think it's going to be a really interesting race so far. Just looking at some top speeds, it's going to be really interesting to see who's really gone for that low downforce setup. How that car is going to behave over the allotted laps versus guys who maybe went with a little higher downforce and are going to be really able to make that car do what they want in sectors 2 and 3. It's going to be an interesting strategy. Looks like some of the guys who've done that are Sandeep Singh, definitely. While some other people who kind of have gone the opposite direction are Homan Stochi with the 286 I'm looking at in the warm-up. So those seem pretty fast times. But it looks to be an interesting round, and we're gonna get to it here hopefully soon.
And the one thing you got to consider with these top speeds are that's what the fastest they've reached in the session. So potentially that speed from Stochi came out of a slipstream rather than the setup. But you never know until the race. You can sometimes see people just blasting their way straight on by on the way down towards the chicane. So we're having the last car out on track, I believe, is David Yunt, last car on a lap. And when he gets back to the finish line, then we're going to be advancing in towards race 1. The grid has been set.
Oh, sorry there, Mike. Yeah, I was going to say we definitely found that out in Super League, that the draft display here is going to play a huge part.
Because basically half of the lap is, if you can get a draft, is going to be helping you so much for so long. It's basically slipstream capabilities for 3 kilometers or so, which is basically a full lap of almost any other circuit. Just for the fact that Spa is so long. As here we go, moving into the race session. And everybody's going to be gridding up. And now we get our first real look at what the grid is going to be like. We can see there, as it's all been set, Martin Hemmingson has come out on pole, as we expected, from Mouse 1, ahead of Herman Stochi. And the second row is going to be Daniel Herlock and Dawid Krupa, who hopefully loads in. That appears to be on a slight delay at the moment. David Yunt is in 5th after placing 3rd in the academy race yesterday, so we wish good luck for Dundu. Yanis Walburn is going to be lining up 5th alongside Joseph Fagg in the academy car, ahead of Pavel Andrzejewski, and Jonathan Holmes is going to be up to 8th as we've lost Dawid Krupa for a disconnecting session change, and we are going to be delaying the race so that Dawid can rejoin. So the race will be delayed by a couple of minutes, giving the drivers a bit of a chance now to go out and experiment some more with the tires. You can see instantly drivers leaving the pits on all sorts of compounds. You got slicks out there, you got intermediates. I think I saw someone leaving on the wet weather tires as well. So Tyler, back to warm up. It's basically a playground for these guys.
Yeah, it's definitely with the changeable weather conditions here. It's definitely going to be crucial for the engineers for these teams. Keep an eye on the amount of wetness that's online versus the amount of wetness that's offline. We've seen in multiple wet races here at GPVWC, just because you have a good dry racing line does not necessarily mean that you should come in and immediately switch to those slick tires, basically. That's been a definite misnomer. I think Austria last year was where we kind of got the first taste of these changeable weather conditions that R Factor 2 can bring. And engineers are definitely going to have to sort of play a key role here in selecting the right tire at the beginning of the race, and potentially, if it does stop raining during the first race, coming in and maybe switching off onto those. But the amount of wetness online versus offline is definitely something they're going to have to keep an eye on and gauge.
As we now get back into the race session, so grid is all set. Drivers now got to take their place on the grid. seems like all is good this time with David Krupa, so we should be having the full complement of 27 cars starting the formation lap in just under 40 seconds or so. Track is currently no rain, but up to 47% wetness there, Tyler. If it was me, I'd be sticking on the intermediate tires. What would you be doing?
Yeah, I'd be saying inters and definitely watching that. Trying to hopefully the weather isn't going to be switching to more wetness, or people are going to be in a little bit of trouble. We'll definitely see a pit stop then. But yeah, 47% is pretty moist. You could maybe say wet, but I'd stick to the inners because I think the track's going to start to dry off, especially with as many cars going around. So inners would definitely be what I would be doing.
That sounds like the smart call, as the drivers are away on their formation lap, which will be treated very much like a recon lap in these conditions. Martin Hemingson's going to be leading them away, and I'm not sure if that's just R-Factor 2 taking a moment to load, but he's on slick tires for me. He's going to be joined on the front row by Herman Stocci, and then on row 2 is going to be Daniel Herlock and David Krupa, followed by David Yunt and Janis Walburn, then Joseph Fag, Paweł Andrzejewski, Jonathan Holmes in 9th after a 10-place grid penalty, and interestingly enough, he's showing as on the full wet tyre. So that's slightly different, ahead of Lorenzo Caponi. Guglielmo Matti in 11th, ahead of the two Fair Racing teams, who are both quite a ways up the grid compared to usual, so good performances from both Tony Jansen and Paul Holt behind him in 13th. Joey Vroliak in 14th, the team manager of Drillers in the Super Cup, ahead of Frank Hamming as things all play out. He's 15th after a 10-place grid drop, ahead of Rodrigo Carvalho in the Razor. Miguel de los Rios in the KC, despite being the fastest in official practice, clearly couldn't get it together in the wet qualifying. He's sharing row 9 with Alfie Lawrenson in the second AB, so a very late minute stand-in, so we'll see how he progresses. Just ahead of the driver who won the Academy Series race yesterday, Tom Voss for RTD, and then Simon Marshall in the second of the Go teams round out the top 20. Behind him, Mateusz Jabinski in 21st, Sandeep Singh all the way down in 22nd. We're going to have to be keeping an eye on him for a big push forward. He's on the full slick compound tyres, so he's clearly going for the drying track gamble. Behind him is going to be Rink Hoekstra on the intermediates, Gerrit de Vries also on the inters, ahead of Stefan Zanrosso. Kasper Michalak in 26th, and his PZZW teammate Adrian Faber is going to be rounding out the 27-strong grid. So we have a real mix of tyres here. We got Hemmingson, Stocci, Herlock, Yunt, Walburn, and Caponi in the top 10 on the slicks. But compare that to Krupa, Fag, Andrzejewski, and Jonathan Holmes all on the intermediates. This could get interesting, Tyler.
Yeah, I think not to put too much of a damper, pun intended, on their on the soft or slick guy strategies, but the thing is trying to make a move offline with that amount of wetness on the track, you are going to be skating on literal ice out there with those slick tires. So it's going to be a tough call for these guys. Obviously, Martin Hemingsson and Stocci are going to be able to sort of pace themselves in control and bottle people up behind him. But trying to move forward on those slicks is just going to be nigh impossible, I think, on this sort of wet yet drying track.
Well, you mentioned that, Tyler. The drying racing line goes across the grid at an angle, so a lot of these cars, including the pole sitter Hemmingson, are going to be starting on the wet line. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on as the final man, Adrian Faber, lines up in his grid box as we're going to head back towards the front. On to Hemmingson, starting on the wet tarmac. 3 lights are on, 4, 5, and away they go, and Hemmingson gets a good launch, but that is a mega launch from 4th place David Krupa, and Hemmingson's bogged. Krupa's already up to the lead. He's gone into the lead on the outside of Herman Stolci. What a start by Krupa, but is he going to hold it on the track? No, he's not. Herman Stolci retakes the lead, and Krupa and Hemmingson side by side, and then everybody else seems to be laying a claim for 4th position. Hopefully they'll get single file as they go up Eau Rouge. And that's Jonathan Holmes already up to 5th, but with a big snap across the top of the hill as they come down onto the Kemmel Straight. And that's a drive-through penalty already for Mateusz Jabinski, I believe, for a jump start. Sandeep Singh's already up a couple of places. and everybody's made the first few corners okay. Garrett DeFries at the back has a drive-through, but here they come down into the real meat of the lap as Herman Stocci leads off the line by 2/10 from David Krupa.
Yeah, I think we've already started to see some of these intermediate guys sort of rocket up to the front from what I'm looking at. And yeah, I think a lot of these intermediate guys are going to start moving up to the front. What I'm telling my guys on intermediates now is, listen, right now we just have to bide our time, let these guys make mistakes, let them figure out that they picked the wrong tire, and then we're going to start moving up the field. If you can pick them off as you're going up there, fine. If not, don't put the car in any danger, run our race, and we'll eventually get up to the sharp end of the field.
Oh, that's a big slide. That's no Herlock off from 5th place. As I heard some crunching in the background, there's clearly something happened in the midfield, as there's a few drivers starting to fall back towards the back. Casper Michalak and Rink Hoekstra have been involved. It's real chaos here. Guglielmo Matti up to 9th, Joseph Fagg up to 10th, and somebody dropped down. I think that could have been Walburn down to 11th. But already good starts coming out from guys like Miguel Dos Rios. They're making places, and De Los Rios to the outside. He's on slicks, going round the outside of an intermediate shod Joey Vrolyak. That was brave. Didn't pay off, but credit for trying, as Herlock making the final chicane look like an ice rink for the other Stanton car. He's on slicks, and I think he might be ruining his decision at present. But remember, if this continues to dry up, those slick drivers are going to be on the right tire at the right time. As for 3rd place, Howard Krupa being attacked already by Jonathan Holmes, who really got a lightning getaway. He's went from 9th to 4th. Krupa now being a bit of a roadblock for Jonathan Holmes as Hemmingson and Herman Stocci whiz off up the road on their slick tires, not battling anyone. They can stay to the dry line. Then the next 3 behind them all on inters, and then David Yunt on the next slick shod car in 6th place. As we can see there, Miguel De Los Rios is indeed past Joey Vrolyak. That's for 12th and 13th. De Los Rios making progress on those slicks. And in behind, Lorenzo Caponi and Alfie Lawrenson going into battle. That's another slicks versus inters. And from the back of the grid, Adrian Faber up from 27th to 17th in 1 lap, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, that's what those inters are letting you be able to do. And right now, this sort of strategy that Herman Stocci has, along with Martin Hemmingson, of not fighting each other and just sort of racing in line, is really going to pay dividends, especially as this track starts to dry a little bit more and a little bit more. I hate to say it, but David Krupa is going to have to start mounting a charge. Either that or stop holding up Jonathan Holmes so he can get around, because this is the only way that it's going to make it a race without these 2 guys running away with it.
Well, I think Krupa will be more than happy just to sit there in 3rd position ahead of Holmes. Remember, the Mouse 1 and AB Racing are the 2 teams in it for the team's title. And if Holmes does clear Krupa, then that's 1 less car between Holmes and championship rival Hemmingson. But as you were saying, you know, Stocci has just come out of the gate absolutely flying. He's already broken DRS, but he's found a wet patch, and he nearly goes around, and this is going to give Hemmingson a chance into turn 1, and Hemmingson's just going to breeze by on the straight. And Martin Hemmingson takes the lead of the race as they start lap 3. And now around La Source and down the hill, Stocci's going to have DRS soon, but Krupa starting to box a few cars in behind. David Yunt closing in, Paweł Andrzejewski closing in, and Frank Hamming starting to think about being defensive from Daniel Herlock in 8th place. Looking back down the field, Faber's continued his charge. He's up to 13th, but behind him in 14th, Tyler, Sandeep Singh on those slick tires, really making up the places.
Yeah, I think Sandeep's probably got a little bit more downforce, but he's probably being very tactical with where and how he's making his passes here. But it's going to be very interesting because he's got Adrian Faber, who's the man of the race so far, up there in 13th, that he's going to have to get around next.
They're just up ahead of those guys. Frank Hamming lost the place to Daniel Herlock, but then Herlock went skating through the chicane. So Daniel Herlock's got pace, but he doesn't have any grip out there, and he's finding all of the wet patches. And now he's got Guglielmo Matti in behind him on the intermediate compound. And then Joseph Fagg running well for the Academy team, still in the top 10 on those intermediates. Looking back down, there's fights all through the field. There's this pretty quality battle going on for 17th. There's Joey Vrolyak fighting against Tom Voss and Lorenzo Caponi. 2 inters versus 1 slick driver in there, as Capone is definitely looking the faster, but he can't really go offline to get around Tom Voss just because it's so wet everywhere but the racing line right now.
Yeah, and that's the problem that these slick guys are going to have, unless people,
Ooh,
unless
look
the
at
guys.
David Yunt, you were saying the problem with the slick guys getting off the line. David Yunt having to look everywhere but the racing line to try and get past Paweł Andrzejewski. That's a fight for fifth that is definitely on at the moment.
And the hard part is that obviously the racing line is going to start to dry out, but the line off of that racing line, unless you start driving cars over that, unless those intermediate shot guys start running on that line, it's not going to dry out near as much as what those slick guys think it is. And if you've got to actually battle somebody to bottle them in, and you get off that line, like we've seen a couple of times, it's just going to be like skating on ice.
Indeed it is, as Voss demonstrated that perfectly, getting offline on the way into turn 1, and now Kasper Michalak coming up behind him. But it's like an ice rink even for the intermediate guys. It's just they have a slight safety blanket. As Singh looking to attack Adrian Faber now as they come down the Kemmel Straight. Singh on the inside with the DRS wide open. He's on the wet stuff, but manages to get in front of Faber before the braking zone. Sandeep Singh up to 13th.
Yeah, and Martin Hemmingson now still setting the fastest laps of the race, so that dry line just getting drier and drier, it seems. But a 2-second gap now to Herman Stochi, and then another 3.6-second gap all the way back to David Krupa. The DRS isn't activated right now, I'm sure, but definitely not going to be kind as far as slipstreaming. So. Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, the DRS has come back in. The track has come back under the 50% margin. So this time, I believe it was, this lap was the first lap it was enabled. But Hemmingson sprinting away on those slicks. The track, the wettest part is only 36% now. As Hemmingson pulling away. As we're hearing now, David Yunt is back on the attack of Andrzejewski yet again. And the dry line is getting wider. It's visible now, and Yunt switches back and but doesn't go for it. He switched back and almost looked like he was getting ready to dive up the inside of Andrzejewski. Didn't make it stick, and now as he gets a bit of a wiggle on, opens the DRS in the middle of a traction zone, and that nearly cost David Yunt. But now he's going to have the DRS on Andrzejewski, and you can see the Kemmel Straight is long enough just to DRS out, round, and back ahead of someone. So that needs to be Yunt's play, but Herlock is already coming right up behind him. As we're looking at these guys, Herlock still on dries, and Daniel Herlock actually has had a mega run through the first couple of corners. And he's got the DRS on David Yunt, and Yunt's pulling in Andrzejewski. I don't think he's going to get there in time, no, pulling out, at least to make Andrzejewski think about it. But nothing doing into the chicane, and the order stays. Andrzejewski in 6th, in 5th, as Yunt did think about just sticking a nose in there, but had to back out, and that's given Daniel Herlock all sorts of opportunities to get around the Calamity reserve driver, David Yunt.
And we're starting to see more guys dip into the pits right now and hop onto those slick tires, but again, you're going to have to be extra careful coming in, switching to slicks in the pits, because the pits are going to be extremely wet. No drying probably occurring in the pits right now, and you're going to have to navigate all the way down pit lane and out back onto the track without having any sort of dry line on those slick tires. But I'm looking at times right now, and it looks like Sector 1 is starting to dry up quite nice, as Miguel de los Rios is setting purple sectors right now in the last 2 laps, purple sector and Sector 1 right now. So that sort of Spa paradigm there where are characteristic of where you have part of the track being dry, but other parts of the track at Spa being wet. That sort of intermediate condition, not only within the weather, but also within the track itself, starting to play a little bit of a
role.
Yeah. God, my word. Anyway, yeah, they're starting to play a little bit of a role there in how this track is. Or how these drivers are starting to tackle this track.
Indeed it is. I think all of the top 11 starting to close up, with Walburn closing onto the back of Matty. But the absolute fight to be watching right now is the battle for 5th place still. Andrzejewski, he's got a poor run up Eau Rouge and up Radion as they come down to the Camel Straight. Yunt already out and alongside, but Yunt's on the wrong side. Herlock's coming along with DRS open. Yunt is past. Herlock going to the inside. Herlock's going to try and break late. Yunt's going to try and squeeze them both into the wet part of the track. Herlock up the inside. Big wheel to wheel. Andrzejewski goes through the chicane. Herlock is going to give him that place back, so relatively sporting from Herlock there. He knew he was in the wrong. Andrzejewski though down to 6th, Yunt up to 5th, and Miguel de los Rios right behind these guys in 8th, with Frank Hamming on those ailing intermediates back to 9th already. As we have had a few guys, certainly Joseph Fagg is one who is ready to come in for those slick tyres, but for now he's just holding off Sandeep Singh for 12th.
And Sandeep Singh set the fastest lap of the race last lap at a 1:59.3. So it's starting to get racy out there, especially with those guys who've been on slicks for a while.
Indeed, and obviously with Sandeep that far back, that gives him a good shot at a decent reverse grid position for race 2. So he could still salvage some big points out of this event, despite the fact he qualified as the slowest driver to set a lap time. But just behind him is the last-minute emergency AB racing driver, Alfie Lawrenson, running well in 14th on those intermediates. If he can make them last, then it's going to be pretty good. As Sandeep Singh going to try and go up the inside of Joseph Fagg through Blanchimont, but it's not going to work. But someone's off in front. That's Yanis Walburn. That's an engine on fire. Yanis Walburn has been into that wall heavy, and he is out of the race. But Sandeep Singh makes the move into the chicane. He's now up to 11th, courtesy of the Yanis Walburn fire. Not sure what happened with Walburn. I've lost read my own on my own screen. But what I do know is happening is Miguel de los Rios is on the charge as he's passed Daniel Herlock into La Source, and Herlock now under pressure from Hamming, but de los Rios, he's about to get 2 cars in the first sector as he swooshes around the outside of Andrzejewski. Miguel de los Rios up into 6th place, and Andrzejewski looking like he's going to start slipping back on those inters, but credit to him for staying on it as Miguel de los Rios gets a bit of a twitch. I don't know if there was contact, but through the chicane de los Rios stays 6th. But Andrzejewski on those inters, they're going to start struggling, but I think at this point it's too late. He just needs to grin and bear it to the end of the race, because you don't want an unnecessary trip through the pit lane, and especially with guys like Frank Hamming so close behind him on the same tyres. If he can just hold him off, then that's an extra place versus pitting. Yeah,
track position is going to be key here. But yeah, it's Hemmingson right now setting the fastest lap of 1:59 flat. So yeah, these guys on slicks, turns out that was the better call. Got a little lucky that there wasn't going to be any more rain, because I've seen that coin flip on both sides there, or turn up on both sides there. But yeah, Sochi though is still 3 seconds back, and this is really Martin Hemmingson's race to lose at this point in time.
But look back to 3rd, Tyler. David Krupa still in 3rd, still defending, but this time he's defending from a slick-shod David Yunt, who has managed to dispatch with Martin Hemmingson at some point, and Yunt's now fancying himself a shot at the podium. And I think this one might have a different mentality against Krupa, because if Yunt gets past Krupa, it's not Hemming, it's not Jonathan Holmes, it's not a team or drivers championship rival, it's an emergency driver from a middle of the standings team if Yunt gets by. So Krupa might not defend so heavily against David Yunt, and instead just focus on Holmes.
The thing is David's a crafty veteran, so it'll definitely be interesting to see what sort of trick he pulls to maybe get dummy Krupa out and get past him. But I don't think David's going to do anything super crazy there. But yeah, it will be interesting.
Sorry for that, Tyler, but I just saw Andrzejewski get a big switch on, and Herlock now trying to look for the outside. Andrzejewski says no. Herlock looking to the inside now. Andrzejewski desperate to hold on to this position. Herlock up the inside, and again they make contact. This time though, they both kind of make the second apex. Herlock almost into the wall. They're still banging. Rubbin's racing at this point. Herlock takes 7th place ahead of Andrzejewski. Hamming's behind him in 9th, and Sandeep Singh dispatches of Guglielmo Matti into 10th, and with 2 basically free positions if he bides his time with the 2 intermediate cars of Hamming and Andrzejewski ahead of him. Singh could be looking good for potentially even a run at the top 7.
Yeah, Singh can keep definitely moving up there. it might be tough to get up to P7. P8 maybe for Sandeep, as the two guys in front of him, Hamming and Andrzejewski, definitely on inters there, and they're going to be ailing for sure. But yeah, Herlock's had pretty good pace, although Sandeep's put in that one flyer of a lap. And that was about, what is that, almost a second quicker than Herlock, so it definitely will be interesting to watch that as it develops there. But David Yunt now within DRS range, and he's definitely going to be putting the heat on David Krupa, who we have to say did a great job of winning that last round at Hockenheim. But Krupa right now on the wrong tire and just too far back to get any sort of DRS help from Herman Stocci ahead. So I'm looking for David Yunt to maybe make a pass here, probably within the next lap or two.
You know what I see with this three-car fight? The fact that not only is it closing up between these three cars, but there's something orange closing up in the distance. It's Miguel de los Rios, who is lapping nearly at least 7/10 a lap faster than any of the three drivers in front. So potentially this could turn into a four-car train before too long, unless David Yunt can manage to make his way past Krupa. But we saw when Yunt was battling with Andrzejewski, he almost seemed a bit tentative. You know, he didn't want to go for those late braking moves that could get him by the intermediate cars. And Krupa's going to be even harder to pass, because Krupa's now up on the podium. He's not going to be wanting to let that go. So Yunt's going to need to use a little bit more, possibly a little bit more than every trick in the book to get past and up onto the podium as it stands.
Yeah, David Yunt is he's just going to have to be smart and pass in a high percentage area where he can make the move. If the slick tire is performing the way it should be, and the intermediate is waning the way it is that we've seen, I would say if you can keep as close as possible without getting too much dirty air going into that final bus stop there, that'd be the place I'd want to make a move.
So I'd imagine it's still got to be a little bit wet offline there, because that's probably the least used bit of track is the inside line down into the bus stop.
Yeah,
but anyway,
hopefully you're not going as fast.
That's true. Martin Hemmingson about to come across and smash yet another fastest lap of the race. Ever since he got into the lead, he's just been cruising away, banging in purple lap after purple lap. 58.3 this time. Herman Stocci is doing his best to go with and is currently holding 7/10 back, also lapping in the 59s, so he's losing a bit of time. Krupa, though, now under pressure, and Yunt has got the run. Yunt's looking for the inside with DRS, but I think David Yunt's going to wait certainly until the Kemel's straight before launching a proper assault. But Miguel de los Rios has definitely caught this group now, so it's 4 of them for 3rd place. Krupa, Yunt, Holmes and de los Rios up Eau Rouge as quick as that. As down now onto the Camel Straight, Yunt pops the DRS. Krupa's defending in the middle of the circuit. De los Rios behind is just driving around Jonathan Holmes. Yunt to the outside of Krupa. Krupa's going to go deep. They're going to bang wheels on the way in. But David Yunt's going to make the move, stick around the outside, and will probably start to eke away and run away into 3rd place as Krupa now goes heavy on the defense against de los Rios. Looking to go round the outside. Not going to happen. He's going to now be on the outside again for the corner with no name. But they slot into single file. And now on the run towards Puon, a double apex corner. Lots of ways to pass people here, but Krupa stays in front of de los Rios. And now of Puon down into the chicane of Fagnes, and not really a big overtaking spot in the middle of this. But de los Rios needs to be careful, because Holmes isn't just going to sit behind and accept 6th place. He's got to make the move soon, as they're going to now come through Stabel though. And on the run down towards Blanchimont with DRS, this could be possible.
I don't know, man. I don't think Holmes has the tire to actually keep de los Rios behind him. Holmes' last few lap times there have been just heartbreakingly slow for a man leading the points lead. And there goes David Krupa behind Miguel de los Rios. And right now, David Krupa needs to be worried about possibly losing 5th position to Jonathan Holmes.
You mentioned Holmes' lap times, Tyler. What were they?
201.3.
Because Sandeep Singh is less than 2 seconds behind in 8th and is lapping in the mid-59s. And Daniel Hurlock also in the very low 2 minutes. So Holmes not out of is no longer not under threat as we come on to start the final lap of the race. Definitely Herlock into 6th is a definite possibility, and if Singh gets on his bike, it could definitely be a shot into the final chicane. Just looking back, the leader Martin Hemmingson coming around the corner with no name. He's driven pretty much flawless through this whole race, aside from just off the line where he got jumped. But now into Pouon, just serenely leading away. He's yet again pushing for another fastest lap as he runs a little bit wide on exit. Stocci still in 2nd, Yunt 3rd, De Los Rios 4th, so the highest up battle is this battle for 6th place, as Herlock has caught Jonathan Holmes, and obviously the more Holmes defends, the more he backs both of them into Sandeep Singh. And there's a hell of a battle going on. We've missed this for 11th, 12th and 13th, the 2 fair racing teams ganging up on Guglielmo Matti. So far Jansen's ahead, Paul Holt still to get through, but that's going to be a fight to watch to the end of the race, as we're going to have to give him his due. Back to the leader, Martin Hemmingson is going to be running down in towards the final chicane, and all he has to do is get through the right, get through the left, and put the power down. And here we have it, the winner of race 1 of the round 11 of the Formula Challenge at Spa, Martin Hemmingson. Congratulations. Herman Stocci is going to be 2nd. Now, a brilliant drive from him for a series newcomer. Yunt's going to be 3rd, although De Los Rios made a big charge. And Herlock is past Jonathan Holmes for 6th. Sandeep Singh's on the outside. They're 3 into the final chicane. Contact between Holmes and Singh. Yunt and De Los Rios finish Krupa 5th. Herlock's going to be 6th, and Jonathan Holmes just holds 7th ahead of Sandeep Singh. So a bit of a tight end there. Frank Hamming's going to come home 9th on those inters ahead of Andrzejewski, who had a very eventful race. Looking forward to seeing more of him in race 2. And then Jansen's going to be 11th. Holt's going to be 12th for the Fair Racing team, both up in the points. Good for them. Ahead of Guglielmo Matti, Rodrigo Carvalho, and the final point score was from Mateusz Jabinski, who I believe had a drive-through at the start of the race. So congratulations for coming back to finish 15th on that, ahead of Caponi. Across the line, that's Joey Vroljak in 17th, ahead of Adrian Faber, who really dropped off the radar. I think he went in for a pit stop. Alfie Lawrenson 19th, ahead of Tom Voss. And then our finishers were rounded out by Stefan Zanrosso. Joseph Fagg after a pit stop down in 22nd, ahead of Simon Marshall and Gerrit de Vries. They're just going to be on the run up to the line, those 3. And then Kasper Mikulak is going to round out our finishers in 25th with Rink Hoekstra making it to the end, 2 laps down. And Yanis Walburn with a DNF with a rather spectacular engine explosion. Yeah,
it was reminiscent of Jarl Teen a little bit last year, where his car was on fire at Coda, but without so much of the contact. But yeah, no, it was an exciting race. That dry line definitely formed a lot quicker than I would think, and the guys were able to hold the car pretty steady on that wet line, considering the fact that it's usually treacherous out there. But it's very interesting to see how far and how quickly the intermediate tires sort of fell off the map there. I figured it lasts just a little bit longer, and maybe some inexperience from these guys not running in the wet as much as they should to keep those tires cool, to keep them from overheating. But yeah, at the end, those slicks just proved to be the best tire. Weathering the storm, pardon the pun, were those guys who were on slicks, doing a great job of that.
Yes, they were. They were doing a great job of that. And with another race to come with a partially reversed grid between 10 and 15. So the potential reverse grid candidates are Andrzejewski, Jansen, Holt, Matti, Carvalho, and Ziabinski. We will be back with you for race 2 after a short break.
leader. He's going to get past GP. He's going to pass them both on the wet part of the racetrack.
Hello and welcome back to round 11 of the GPVWC Formula Challenge. Still from Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. We just finished the first race with a drying track, mixed tyre choices from the drivers, and a race win for Martin Hemmingsen ahead of newcomer Herman Stocci. So lots of things to talk about from that. But we will be moving to race 2 in just a minute with a reverse grid number of 14. So that is going to be putting Rodrigo Carvalho for Razor on the pole position. And the track seems to be drying up still from that first race. So I assume it's going to be a full dry race. So Rodrigo Carvalho is going to be starting on pole, but the man I really want to be keeping an eye on in this race is Guglielmo Matti. He's been running well in the dry, you know, at previous circuits like Istanbul, when he was actually running right up pointy end. And looking at how the grid is formed, if he can get a good start and lead into turn 1, I could easily see Guglielmo Matti checking out here, Tyler.
Yeah, Guglielmo's he's been solid all year long. Just hasn't been able to string together the best results all the time. I have to say the other guys that obviously Martin Hemmingsen it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. He was putting in some burners of some laps. Miguel de los Rios seems to have a very hooked up car though as well. He was monster in Sector 1. It seemed like all race long. So a very, very, I'm assuming, low downforce car on that machine, and he might be giving some people fits, especially in that Sector 1 on that Camel Straight. And Sandeep Singh also definitely seeing what he can do, putting in some very fast laps towards the end of that first race. But again, the wild card in this whole thing to me, Mike, is going to be the guys who are on inters. Have we seen their true face on those slicks? Jonathan Holmes. We had Pavel Andruski. We had David Krupa, all on those inters, and they weren't able to really maximize and show what their actual pace is. So it's going to be very interesting to me to see what that pace at the end is going to be.
Indeed it will, and as you said, with Andrzejewski in 5th, Holmes starting in 8th, Krupa in 10th, so we definitely have plenty of action to come as we have 30 seconds left for the drivers to get themselves up and onto the grid. The track's still actually quite wet offline, still 35% off, and with a full dry line, that's probably 35% off is off in a runoff somewhere. We would hope, at least, with 10 seconds to go before the start of the formation lap, and still a worrying amount of drivers in the pit lane. As the grid now fills up, we should have another full assortment of 27. So the grid, both top and tailed with Razors, as on pole, leading us away is Rodrigo Carvalho, as profiting from the reverse grid number 14. Second place, and joining him on the front row is Guglielmo Matti, as there's a lot of spray coming up. Now I'm wondering if that is just our factor syncing the weather, but either way,
I hope so, because it's a lot.
There's a chance for it to be an absolute washout here at this rate. Row 2 is going to be made up of both of the Fair Racing team cars. They seem to be joined at the hip, this time Paul Holt ahead of Tony Jansen. Behind them is one of the guys who was involved in the most action in the first race, Paweł Andrzejewski. And then joining him is Frank Hamming in 6th position for H20 Namco. Then the driver who had to come from all the way back in 22nd in race 1 ended up finishing in 8th place, starting 7th this time out, Sandeep Singh for KC. And behind him, the championship leader, Jonathan Holmes, who really managed to get away with it in the first race, managing to come across the line in P7. Behind him, Daniel Hurlock, who was looking more like he was taking inspiration from Torval and Dean in the first couple of laps last time. He's going to be 9th ahead of David Krupa, who's always going to be fun to watch. Behind him, Miguel de los Rios, one of the drivers who was absolutely on fire at the end of the race, was unlucky not to be able to catch David Yunt, who's going to be starting in 12th. And behind Yunt is going to be Herman Stocci. So let's see how he can do having to come up through this field. We've seen what he can do at the front of it. And race 1 winner Martin Hemmingsen back in 14th. 15th place, Mateusz Szczepinski for PLS. It's going to be ahead of Lorenzo Caponi for Drive Game Seat. And Joey Vroliak for Santon ahead of Adrian Faber. We saw him make a lot of places early before pitting for the other compounded tyre. He's going to be starting 18th ahead of Alfie Lawrenson for AB. Behind him in 20th, Tom Voss, the Academy Series winner from 24 hours ago. Stefano Zanrosso in the second H20, going to be starting 21st ahead of Joseph Fagg, who was running well again before having to bite the bullet and admit he took the wrong tyres, pitted for slicks, ended up 22nd. He's going to be starting ahead of Simon Marshall. Gerrit de Vries in 24th is going to be ahead of Kasper Michalak, and the grid rounded out by Rink Hoekstra and Janis Walburn, who will hopefully this time not be ending up in a fiery mess.
Yeah, that'll be definitely his hope. It seems like there are some wet spots along the track, but mostly seems dry throughout. So I think moves are going to be a little bit more abundant during this race here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with these guys moving forward. There's going to be some spots though that you are going to have to take care of, definitely in some of the shaded areas in Sector 2 and Sector 3. I was seeing some rooster tail spout up there, so.
And indeed there is, and always good fun on being on slicks on a wet track. As the final cars line up, Walburn is in position, so we'll switch back to the front. Walburn's teammate Carvalho, I think someone's possibly out of their grid slot and just sorting that out. Potentially David Yunt. It's delaying the start, but here come the lights. 1 light, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out and away they go, and a horrible start for Carvalho. He's already down to 3rd and they've barely moved. So one of the Fair Racing teams, Janssen, with a poor start, but at the inside Carvalho going big. He's going to retake the lead, but look at this, that's Frank Hamming up the inside, already leading the race on the way out of turn 1. It's Frank Hamming ahead of Carvalho. Andrzejewski Singh up to 4th alongside Guglielmo Matti already, and somehow they've all managed to make it through. Only Tom Voss was delayed, but Hamming leads as they come up over Rouge for the first time. Onto the Kemmel Straight, one of the calamities out wide there, and they're all in a big slipstream battle as they come down towards the chicane.
There was a little bit of death, and it was Janis Walburn yet again dying there.
Andrzejewski just into the back of Frank Hamming. Hamming has to bail on the chicane. Sorry to cut across you like that, Tyler, but for the lead, Hamming having to bail on the chicane. He holds the lead, and Singh passing Carvalho for 3rd.
Andrzejewski there was lucky not to lose his front wing there. But yeah, unfortunately we have Janis Walburn out again, an accident up there at Eau Rouge. But yeah, some guys just flying off there. It looked like it was one of those white cars. What is that, Alfie Lawrenson maybe? No. Adrian Faber hitting the wall there as they were coming around that final corner in Sector 2. And yeah, just guys really trying to dice it up here early on.
Indeed they are. There's a bit of a team fight going on in the middle for 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. The Mouse Ones trying to work their way past the Fair Racing teams. They've both gotten past Paul Holt. And David Yunt now in 11th trying to follow them through. But one person who's had a terrible start to this race, already down to 19th, Miguel de los Rios. And after showing so much pace, that's going to be a disappointment. But back up towards the top 5, Jonathan Holmes makes a move on Guglielmo Matti. Sandeep Singh still trying to pass Carvalho for 3rd, and Frank Hamming is going to lead us round this opening lap as Matti now under attack from Janssen, and Paul Holt goes deep, through goes David Yunt. Now here comes Herlock trying to get one around the outside. 3 of them run wide, someone's gone round in the mid-pack, Joey Vroliak's been tagged. And Vroliak and Capone come into contact again, they're both going to be delayed, and Tom Voss is going to come in with no front wing.
Vroliak no front wing as well, so that's pretty much end of the day to his points finishing hopes. But yeah, a lot of elbows out early on. We have one of the yellow
Hemmingson.
Cars. Yeah.
That's big. That's Hemmingson. That's race 1 winner and championship protagonist out of the race. What happened there, Tyler? Can you
too wide into Eau Rouge and just trying to take too much curve, and it's just not dry enough. That's what'll do it for you. It's a prescription for that right there.
More contact. That was Zabinski and Stocci trying to go into the chicane side by side, and contact with lots of drivers.
Herlock involved with this as well. Herlock and Paul Holt also involved. Yeah, guys just racing a little bit too hard for these conditions right now. You just got to get it settled down as we see who is that there? Capone now coming through. Doesn't look to be too much superficial damage on his car, but we don't know what's going on with the suspension. But yeah, we'll throw it up to the front where we still have Frank Hamming leading almost 2 seconds over Pavel Andrzejewski, and then Sandeep Singh in P3. So Sandeep, one of my drivers at least, doing, well, not one of my drivers, but one of the guys I wanted to keep an eye on, definitely moving up through the field there as Rodrigo Carvalho, our pole sitter, P4, and Jonathan Holmes all the way up to P5, one of those guys with potential hidden speed that people don't know about.
I think Jonathan Holmes would be tough to hide his speed as championship leader, but behind him is going to start kicking off as David Krupa now takes 6th place ahead of Matty. And Krupa and Holmes, they've battled already all race 1. They've been battling all season. Could they start battling again as Carvalho is going to box them in back in P4? But one of the biggest, I would say, beneficiaries of the tangles on the first couple of laps, he's dropped a few places already, but Tony Jansen's still holding on to P9 in the Fair Racing Team car, and if he can just keep it within DRS of the back of David Yunt, he could be pulled to quite a good top 10 result, and that's going to help Fair Racing Team out quite a lot in the in their team's championship bid.
Yeah, Tony Jansen, he's going to have a good run, potential slipstream coming here. Yunt taking the inside line with the fence. Jansen onto the outside on the Kemmel straight. Yunt just squeezes him onto the outside, the crafty veteran he is. And then, yeah, just keeps that place from Tony Jansen there. But Tony's not been able, or shy about getting his elbows out and definitely sending his car off the inside. Done it a couple of times today, but just going to need to settle down right now. And, yeah, like you said, keep it within that DRS of David Yunt.
So he's got Adrian Faber closing in on him from behind, but behind Faber, another driver to take advantage, Alfie Lawrenson for AB is up there.
Andrzejewski ran wide there. I think it was Pool on there. I'm not that... Unfortunately, I don't know all the track corners there of Spa, but Andrzejewski has dropped down to P3. Sandeep Singh up to P2. Andrzejewski ran really wide out in the runoff there on that left-hander. And yeah, Sandeep Singh has been able to capitalize and move ahead of Andrzejewski. But Andrzejewski, he's going to have that DRS on Sandeep Singh, who's 3.1 seconds off of Frank Hamming. So this battle is not going to be over yet.
I think you can almost write Frank Hamming's name in pencil on the winner's trophy right now. It's down to him to just get it home. But Singh passes Andrzejewski, as you say, and with the track conditions as they are, oh, that's a big dive. That's David Krupa coming out of nowhere, all crossed up. Trying to go up the inside of Carvalho, go straight through the chicane, is going to give the place back. But Krupa is not going to be a guy who is who's going to sit and settle for 6th place, especially with his Mouse One teammate Martin Hemmingson not finishing this race already.
Yeah, he had an opposite lock, I think, on both ends there, which is quite a feat. But yeah, and then poor Guglielmo Matti there, packing P7. He just got mugged off on the start. Ended up hitting Carvalho in the rear. Probably has some front wing damage and some suspension damage as he was just forced out. So one of those guys just not having a good race, although he had a great starting position.
As you were saying, that David Krupa just breezed past Carvalho on the straight. Nothing Carvalho could do against the DRS-assisted David Krupa, who's now going to be setting off after Jonathan Holmes, as they're now going to be chasing down the podium of Sandeep Singh and Pavel Andrzejewski. But Frank Hamming, he's done what he needed to. He had a brilliant start. They say you can't win the race in the first corner. I could debate Frank Hamming may have done just that. He got out of the first turn in the lead and has managed to build up 3 seconds before Sandeep Singh has got through into second.
Well, Mike, we've got 3 laps done, and right now I'm going to be just watching the splits between Frank Hamming and Sandeep Singh. It might not be over. Remember, Sandeep was one of the fastest drivers that last round out on those slicks. So Sandeep definitely precise enough to keep that car where it needs to be on a ever-drying track.
Indeed he was, but you say that as well. Sandeep was one of the fastest drivers towards the end of that race. Frank Hamming was one of the fastest drivers on the Inters towards the end of that race, so Hamming now is actually on the same tyre as Sandeep Singh, and over the past few rounds, Frank Hamming has really been becoming a force to be reckoned with at the front of the grid, ever since that kind of breakout round in about midpoint of the season so far. He's just been up there continually, so Sandeep Singh is going to have his work cut out, and look, he only gained less than a tenth over that last time by.
Yeah, we'll definitely see here who's running the lower and higher downforce settings, but I think Singh has a higher downforce setting. Take my word for it, but from what I've seen from Singh, it probably looks like he's got a higher downforce setting. But to me, higher downforce is the way to go, especially, well, not especially, but definitely on a drying track and a track that doesn't have as much rubber on it as you would like.
Indeed, but I mean, Sandeep's been one of these guys who's been a bit of an outlier all year on setup where it comes to gearing and downforce. You know, a lot of guys like to gear themselves so that they can run optimally in slipstream, whereas Sandeep runs by himself a lot of the time, so he's going to be pleased as punch to be having a clear track ahead of him. In the first sector, he brought that gap down by just another 2/10 to Frank Hamming, but Paweł Andrzejewski is not letting him out of his sight, and Jonathan Holmes and Dawid Krupa are starting to edge up onto them. In fact, of everybody inside of everyone on the track, actually, the fastest one through the first sector of that lap was Dawid Krupa. So Krupa's starting to close in on Holmes, but there's battles all through the field. Carvalho's still holding off Junt and Matti for 6th.
And we got a good one for P15 right now. Simon Marshall has it. Daniel Herlock and Renk Hoekstra want it there with P16 and P17 respectively. So this is going to be a very interesting battle as they're heading through, I believe it's the third sector here. But Simon Marshall, the man who runs the well-oiled machine that is Rookie Monsters, holding it down in the final points-paying position, having a great run here at Spa.
Indeed, and he's just managed to stay out of trouble, and this shows you what staying out of trouble can do. Is up for 6th. They're all over each other. Junt's gone up the inside of Carvalho. Carvalho's not letting him have it for free and is trying to come back into the source. Guglielmo Matti second, having to watch him brief. He's going to try and go back underneath Carvalho, and Carvalho's slow on apex, but Junt goes wide. Carvalho goes through. Junt's going to carry the speed down and try and force it too wide up Eau Rouge, but Carvalho's clear. Junt switches back to the optimal line. And up they go. All three of them have made it. Carvalho's gone deep. Carvalho's gone deep. He's going to swish wide to the other side. They're going to pull out from behind him. Junt's now going to be caught out. They're going to go 3 wide. But Matti being squeezed onto the grass by Carvalho. DRS on Junt. DRS on Matti. But late braking on Carvalho. Junt's going to sweep round the outside. Fantastic move from David Junt. But it's not over yet. Matti's still behind Carvalho. And Adrian Faber's ranged all the way up onto their gearboxes. So this is now a 4-way duel for 6th, unless David Junt can check out.
Well, it's just going to start pulling Tony Jensen into this as well, but or Jansen into this as well, but yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was looking back to this battle for 15th you were saying about, and it's just gone wrong. It was Simon Marshall was actually caught Alfie Lawrenson, but Daniel Herlock was looking at the inside of Marshall, got a little bit squeezed, got sideways, and that caught out Renk Hoekstra, who ended up having a big spin and collected Lorenzo Capone, so both of them being delayed. But this battle for the back end of the points position is not over with. Neither is the battle for 12th as Stefano Zanrosso trying to go right the outside of Joseph Fagg. It's ambitious, I can say that. It didn't quite work out this time for Zanrosso, but battles all across the field, except for an 11th where Herman Stocci is just kind of driving around trying to reel in Tony Jensen.
Yeah, there's action all over the place. I will say this. 2.244 seconds between Sandeep Singh and Frank Hamming right now. A little over half of the race left. So it is going to be a big ask. But Sandeep Singh slowly but surely reeling in Frank Hamming there. But yeah, just battles all over the track as Guglielmo Matti and Adrian Faber now battling for P8. And Simon Marshall has finally lost that 15th and final points-paying position to Daniel Herlock, who's on a flyer right now. Although Simon looking like he's going to give chase again, and he's going to have DRS going up into the Camel Straight if he can keep the car and distance low between him and Daniel. But Daniel just seems to have a very fast car. But Daniel's going to be held up here by Alfie Lawrenson going into Eau Rouge. Wouldn't make a move there, but Daniel, I'm not in the cockpit with you. But yeah, Daniel looking like he's going to be on the outside there of Alfie Lawrenson. And we've had a little bit of an incident there between Joseph Fagg and Stefan Zanrosso up ahead. But Daniel Herlock able to make that move on Alfie Lawrenson. And Simon Marshall might find himself quickly back up into the points as Alfie Lawrenson seems to be struggling.
Indeed, these two, Lawrenson and Marshall, beneficiaries of the early lap chaos, and you got to think guys like Capone, who are behind them, might have a little bit more pace, but nonetheless, these guys are fighting for the opportunity they've got. There's a point on the table, and I could go either way at this point. It's looking just behind them. I don't really see anybody with the exception of Capone, who might catch them. So this could be a point for either of them, which would be big for either the last-minute reserve of Alfie Lawrenson or Simon Marshall coming in as an emergency for Go Team.
And,
but ahead, that's ahead. That's Joseph Fag. That's a big. He's in the middle of the track and he's out of the race. I was gonna say hopefully Herlock avoids him, but Joseph Fag just through Franya's lost the back end into the wall, no front wing, and that promotes the battle. Alfie Lawrenson and Simon Marshall up to 14th and 15th as Simon Marshall sweeps around the outside. He's going to be ahead even before Blanchimont, even before the DRS comes in. But Lawrenson might launch a counter-attack into the final chicane. No, he won't. Thinks better of it. And Simon Marshall up to 14th.
And we're going to have a battle, too, for P5, or P4, P5, as Jonathan Holmes has it. David Kruper right now, as they're heading through Eau Rouge. They're battling for it. Well, the gap was closer, as I was watching earlier. But about, what is that, 6/10 or so, 3/10 of a second between the two. So Krupp has been able to definitely close it in during the braking zone. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just saw a big cloud of dust with Adrian Faber coming out of it with no front wing. I'm not sure what has happened there, but it's on the run up to Lake Combe. Adrian Faber in the wall, no front wing, potentially contact with Rodrigo Carvalho, who is looking very... don't want to use the word desperate, but I can't really avoid it. Very desperate on defense against Guglielmo Matti, and I think might have caught out Adrian Faber.
Yeah, Faber with no front wing runs very wide there, and he's just going to be a sitting duck now for the guys behind.
And so there's even a good battle going on for the guys who were running the final 3 places. Joey Vroliak now being joined by Lorenzo Capone, who's just left the pit lane, and Paul Holt and Tom Voss were in that battle. I think they've had a bit of a coming together at La Source.
I'm going to give you a Sandeep Singh update, 1.8 seconds right now, so slowly but surely closing it in, but laps are starting to run out quick.
Indeed, as they cross this, they're only going to have 3 more to go. But Singh, once he breaks that 1 second margin, will get the major assist that is DRS. It's 1.8 right now. So Singh and Hamming, this actually could come down very close. Frank Hamming's won races this season. Sandeep Singh's won races this season. They both know what it takes, but which one wants it more at this stage? And there's a battle going on for third as Andrew Yuski is holding off admirably, but Holmes and Krupa are catching, and then in behind them, as Herman Stocci has just passed Tony Janssen for 9th. Adrian Faber visits the pit lane. That's going to promote Alfie Lawrenson and Daniel Herlock. Simon Marshall has made a mistake on that last lap. He's been actually caught by Gerrit Fries and Rink Hoekstra not far behind. So a lot of these drivers getting a chance at battling for the points that maybe going into this you wouldn't have expected.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers I wouldn't necessarily expect, but you know, that's what consistency and sticking with it does to you. You know, never give up till the end. And yeah, we've got some guys who I don't think we've called their names at all this year up into the points, and not necessarily battling for the lead, but driving strong and driving smart.
I think certainly Alfie Lawrenson and Simon Marshall have yet to race really this season. You know, and they're both showing admirable jobs. I know Lawrence, I don't even think was planning on being the guy in the car today. I think they were supposed to have a Larry Alpius, but he was delayed, and so Alfie Lawrenson stepped up to the plate and is going to be rewarding AB at this point with some nice points finish. 3 points, which might not seem too much, but with Jonathan Holmes outscoring Dawood Krupa at the moment, that 3 points is enough to increase the lead due to the DNF of Martin Hemmingsen.
And this gap is starting to get a little bit tasty, but Sandeep's going to have to take a little bit more out of it this lap for sure. 1.4 seconds between him and Frank Hamming. So he's going to have to take a little bit more. Either that or I think Hamming just might have it. 1.2 seconds at the line. So Sandeep Singh definitely mounting a late charge here on Frank Hamming, who's been basically dominating this one from the beginning.
Yeah, indeed, and there's only 2 laps to go now for Sandeep Singh to make the pass, so it's going to have to be Gaines' time. Andrzejewski admirably holding on from Holmes, still in 3rd and 4th, but there was a change for 10th, and then it changed back again. Janssen was passed by Zan Rosso into the chicane, but Tony Janssen cut back underneath Stefano Zan Rosso.
Here we go. Jonathan Holmes on Pavel Andrzejewski right now on the Kemmel stretch. Jonathan Holmes has been able to get by him on the Kemmel stretch, so Pavel Andrzejewski is having some sort of issue with his car. Tires going away, or just not able to keep that car underneath him on a lighter fuel load. And now that puts him into the crutches of David Krupa. So Andrzejewski not being able to hold down that podium position, which he's basically owned since about 5 or 6 laps ago.
I say he's not just having to defend from David Krupa now, he's having to defend from a DRS-assisted David Krupa, and it seemed like Jonathan Holmes, that was just DRS at work. It's very powerful here at Spa-Francorchamps, long straights, long DRS zones, and with tracks like that, DRS can really be a godsend.
Frank Hamming runs a little bit wide there, runs out onto the AstroTurf, so this might help Sandeep Singh as they're heading into the final lap. Sandeep Singh might have DRS. This might be a boom for Sandeep.
He will get a little bit as they come up towards the braking zone. Oh no, no DRS zone here, my mistake. But Sandeep Singh, if he can hold it, is within DRS zone, but it's still going to be a big ask. He's 1 second behind, just under, as he gains a lot on the way into the chicane, but Hamming's going to have the run on the way out.
A touch of oversteer though for Sandeep. That might seal the deal for Frank Hamming. He's just outside of DRS range, just 1 second. 3 thousandths of a second outside of DRS range right now, Sandeep Singh. So hoping and praying, we'll see if Sandeep, doubt he has the low downforce setup on that car, but we will see if he can make any sort of gains here on the Kemmel stretch.
But meanwhile, David Krups made the move 4th against Pavel Andrzejewski, and there was also a move for 9th. And 10th, Zan Rosso and Stocci are in battle, but we do need to keep an eye on this gap for the lead as Andrzejewski's actually coming back at Krupa. So 4th and 5th, Krupa's having to go defensive. Andrzejewski finally gets to use DRS against somebody, and he's going to use it to sweep around the outside. So after 2 races of being overtaken by DRS, Andrzejewski finally gets one back.
8 tenths now between Sandeep and Frank Hamming.
So the slipstream really properly starts kicking in maybe 6.5 tenths. So if he can be within half a second coming on the way up to Blanchimont, I reckon Sandeep Singh could try something under braking. He does seem to be able to brake later. Hamming's run wide. Never mind.
Run wide.
Hamming's going to hold the lead, but just as Singh's going to try and go around the outside of Fagnes, and that's not going to work. They're going to come.
It's Singh on the inside, though. Singh on the inside, running up very close, right on the rear wing. We'll see if Singh can maybe pop out. Oh, nope, Hamming running wide again, but cutting across there. Easy there, Frank. Don't do something crazy. Sandeep, though, going to be on the outside. Take it away, Mike.
As they're going to go side by side out of Stavolo and on the run to Blanchimont. Hamming's got the outside. He can keep his foot in. Singh's on the inside. Singh may have to lift out here, but they're going to go side by side, lean on each other. Singh's got his nose in front, but Hamming's got the inside. Singh can brake later, though, we know that. And he goes around the outside the first part, slight bit of contact. Hamming leaves him room. Frank Hamming's going to get the power down, and Frank Hamming out of the final corner of the race is going to take the win. Sandeep Singh, game job in 2nd. 3rd place for Jonathan Holmes, Pavel Andrzejewski in 4th, and David Krupa in 5th. And that was a close one.
Yeah, I don't see anything. I didn't see anything that was terribly uncouth by either of the 2 drivers at the end. Fairly clean. Hamming with some very aggressive defending, but nothing that I would say is out of line. But a great job there from Frank Hamming holding off Sandeep Singh, and that was a closer finish than even I would have predicted at the beginning of this race.
Indeed, it was barely anything in it. David Junt's going to be finishing 6th ahead of Guglielmo Matti. Rodrigo Carvalho is going to hold on to 8th ahead of Stefano Zan Rosso, who came out on top of his duel for 9th. Stocci in 10th ahead of Tony Janssen with a good run to 11th place again. Daniel Herlock up to 12th. Alfie Lawrenson, big credit for that performance, up in 13th. 3 points for AB ahead of Simon Marshall, 2 points for him. And 1 point going to Gerrit de Vries in 15th ahead of Rink Hoekstra. But there's still a battle onto the line. It's Joey Vrolyk around the outside of Capone, and Vrolik's going to hold on to this. it's going to be a bit of a moot point anyways. Capone still has an outstanding drive-through, so he's going to be dumped 35 seconds back down the road, but Joey Vrolik is going to beat him on the run to the line anyway. And now in 18th place is going to be Paul Holt, and Capone's going to round out our classification in 19th after ignoring the drive-through and receiving a 35-second penalty. Wow. That was a race, even to the line, even towards the back of the pack between Vrolik and Capone, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, it just, man, I tell you what, Spa never disappoints, and just a wonderful collection of corners and straights. And these Formula Challenge drivers show the versatility of that car, definitely, to put on a great race after race after race. And what these drivers are able to do, just astounding. Even the new guys in the series doing a great job, taking their lumps, but at the end of the day, some of them even climbing up into the points and having some good points finishings. To me, one of the biggest things is Martin Hemmingsen dominated race 1 on those changeable conditions. Just got it wrong going into Eau Rouge and Raidillon and just binned it, put it in the wall. And huge championship implications right now, because I believe he was fighting with Sandeep Singh for P2 in the championship.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change anything there. I think Singh scored enough points that he would have stayed in second after race 1. And then, obviously, with Hemmingsen's non-score, he's going to drop all the way back again. But Sandeep Singh, I think actually over this event, will have gained on Jonathan Holmes. So the championship battle will close up just a fraction. But for now, we're going to have to throw it to a quick commercial break. And then we should be back with some driver interviews when we return. And we are back after a bit of a hectic round of the GPVWC Formula Challenge, and we shall hopefully be trying to grab a few drivers for some interviews. First driver up is the man who was blessed with the good fortune in the reverse grid draw. It's Rodrigo Carvalho. Rodrigo, talk us through the event from your perspective.
First, I did not expect that was to rain. Me and my team see that have a minimal chance, but we do not training for that condition. That having race 1 and quali, that was still wet the track. Unfortunately, my quali lap was not good because dirty air makes a problem to my lap, and I spun out because of that. And when start race 1, I have problems also, people crashing to me, but I still win the track and have luck to make the top 15 and have luck also to make the pole. I know that I do not have pace for win the race, but I know that I can make at least a top 10, so that was my goal in race 2, and did work well. So I finished in 8th.
Well, good outing, good solid points. We're going to be looking to see you a few more times through the.
Okay. I make points in 2 races. I think for Razor GP, that's what matters. We are in top 5 in constructors, and I hope we can continue in this position and also pick better positions in the next races.
So yeah, just touching on that battle for 5th place in the teams, Razor had it on the way into the round by 6 points from PLS, who also scored fairly big. And closing in on you guys was actually H20 Namco, so that's going to be a fight that's going to come to the head fairly soon. Well, we wish you the best of luck in that one, Ricardo, and if you are out on track, best of luck for any more rounds of this season.
Okay, but the name is Rodrigo, not Ricardo.
Sorry, apologies. Rodrigo Carvalho. I'm getting you confused with somebody else. My mistake. Sorry, Rodrigo. Best of luck, Rodrigo, for any times you're back out on track the rest of the season.
Thanks, Mike.
So we're going to move on. Tyler, I think, have you got Sandeep Singh?
Yeah, I'll bring him in. Hey, Sandeep, how you doing?
Yeah.
Well, don't sound too excited. I mean, you only gained on Jonathan Holmes in the points standings, and you put on a heck of a show there at the end of the second race, and you made the right tire call on the first one to get all the way up to, I believe it was P8.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I don't know. I need to look at the last corners. I don't know. Yeah, I'm annoyed because I could have got the win there. Basically, that's. I'm not gonna comment on it because I don't want to say something in the heat of the moment. But yes, at least I got points. Qualifying was an absolute horror show, and then I saw in the warm up. I thought the track's drying up, and I had a little look. It's like it's not gonna rain, and then gamble on slicks formation lap before. Yeah, car feels alright. Then I took first lap. I just tried to survive, see how much grip there was, and I knew instantly, all right, this is a good call, and I started pushing it. I was being careful through Pouon because that was the worst corner where if you got a little bit offline, you go straight into the wall. So I was taking it easy through there, but as I got more confidence, I just started pushing like crazy.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say it seemed around lap 6 that the car really started coming to you.
Yeah. Like I think I remember it took like 3 seconds out of a guy on Inters in 2 sectors. That was to catch up to the top 10 guys, and I was pushing like mad because obviously I had Jono was ahead of me, and I couldn't afford to lose any more points. Hemmingson was winning the race, so I went for it. Then got P8. I almost had a go at him in the last corner. I need to have a look at it again, see what happened there, because we did make contact. I need to see why we made contact. If I left with my room or if I got pushed off, I don't know yet. But then race 2. Yeah, it was alright, race 2. Yeah, I was worried if my wings were good enough for Kemmel Straight and Sector 2, but yeah, I seemed to have better drive than everyone out of corners, which put me in the game a lot.
Yeah, it did. Were you thinking to yourself once you were down to like 1.8 seconds, I think it was, with about 5-6 laps to go, hey, I might be able to catch him?
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely what I thought. I started a little bit earlier than that even, but yeah, it definitely seemed like you were able to take out bits of time where it mattered and have just a better overall, like you said, drive out of the corner there. Seemed like you were kind of all alone once you got by Andrzejewski there, and all around very calculated, well run race there, Sandeep.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, could have been better.
Well, just bank the points and take it to heart that you can at least move up a little bit in the championship, close that gap to Jonathan Holmes there. We'll see you later on, and good luck in the rest of the rounds.
Thanks. See ya. Bye.
Yep.
And indeed, as Tyler said, they have some more rounds left of this season. Join us 2 weeks from today for the next round of the Formula Challenge. I believe I'm right in saying, I'm just going to double check that it's from Monza in Italy. So that should be another fun one for the long straights and heavy braking. Next week, we have the Super Cup, the Super League Lights, and the Super League itself coming to you from Spa over the course of Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And tomorrow, big news, big excitement. It's going to be the return of ITC around Brands Hatch. So keep an eye out for tomorrow for your touring car fix. I know I'm going to be one of the several mad souls who are going to be making their way out onto the grid for Division 1 of that. Not entirely sure who's going to be on the commentary for that, but it will be broadcasted out. I do believe, so that is going to be one to look forward to. Until then, big thank you for joining me for Tyler Parker, and we shall see you next time.
I'm James Kirk. I'm Mitchie Hoyer, and you're watching simnews.tv.
It's gone off! He's going to pass them both on the wet part of the racetrack. Oh, he swings left and right there. Trying to put Morris up. Morris. Oh, that was so close.
To keep up to date with the latest GPVWC videos, click on the subscribe button, or check out more of our exciting sim racing action by choosing a video. For more information on the league, visit gpvwc.com.